My name is Rebecca. I am 25 years old. For most of my life, I worked in small farms and fields. I was born poor and I stayed poor. My parents passed away when I was young, and I learned early that the world is not always kind. When I was 18, I met Clara. She was only 2 years younger than me, quiet and shy, with big brown eyes that always looked like they were waiting for something good to happen. We met at a small fruit farm. Both of us were new workers and both of us needed the job badly. The first day we worked side by side, picking oranges under the hot sun. My hands hurt, my back ached, and my head felt dizzy, but Clara kept talking softly. She said, "One day I want to have my own little place. Just a house with a garden." I laughed and said, "That sounds like a dream." But she didn't laugh. She said, "Maybe dreams are all we have." Rebecca, since that day, we became close. We worked together, ate together, and when the work season ended, we went looking for another job together. Life was not easy for two girls with no family and no money. Sometimes we slept in old barns or under trees. Sometimes we shared a loaf of bread between us, but we always said the same thing before sleeping: one day we'll have our own home. Years passed like that. We moved from place to place, picking fruits, cleaning rooms, taking any small job we could find. Some people were kind. Some were not. Many looked at us like we were nothing. But we never stopped dreaming. Last year, we found a small town called Willow Creek. It was quiet and peaceful. There was a big farm owned by a man named Mr. Benson. He needed workers to help with the wheat harvest. When we arrived, he looked at us with tired eyes. He said, "You too know how to work hard." We nodded. He smiled a little and said, "Then you can stay. There's a small shed behind the field. You can sleep there." The shed was small and old. The roof leaked when it rained and the floor was cold, but to us it felt like a gift. Clara smiled when she saw it. "It's not much," she said, "but it's ours for now." That night we sat outside watching the stars. Clara looked at me and said, "Rebecca, I think we can save money here. Maybe enough to buy our own small piece of land." I smiled, though I didn't really believe it. Still, I didn't want to take away her hope. I said, "Yes, maybe we can." We worked every day from morning until sunset. The sun burned our skin and the dust filled our clothes, but we didn't complain. Mr. Benson's wife, Mrs. Benson, was a kind woman. She often gave us bread and soup when she saw we were tired. Sometimes she talked to Clara and asked about our plans. Clara always said the same thing: "We want a better life." Mrs. Benson would smile sadly and say, "I hope you find it, dear." There was one man on the farm who made Clara nervous. His name was Paul. He was tall with rough hands and a sharp face. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his words always felt heavy. One evening when we were walking back to the shed, he called out, "Hey, where are you two from?" I said, "Southfield." He grinned. "Not many girls come this far alone. You must be brave." I didn't like the way he looked at Clara. She stayed quiet and walked faster. That night, she told me, "Rebecca, I don't like him. He looks at me in a strange way." I told her not to worry, that we just needed to keep our heads down and work, but I could see the fear in her eyes. Days went by. The wheat turned golden and heavy, and Mr. Benson said the harvest was almost ready. Everyone worked harder. Paul often came near us, pretending to help, but mostly just watching. I didn't like it, but I didn't want trouble. We needed the job. One afternoon, after a long day, Clara and I sat by the river behind the fields. It was quiet there and the air felt cool. Clara took off her shoes and put her feet in the water. "When we get our land," she said, "I want a small house with flowers by the door. I'll grow tomatoes and beans and maybe a few chickens." I smiled. "And what about me?" She laughed. "You can have a room too. You can plant sunflowers." I laughed with her, and for a moment, I forgot about the hard life we had. It felt like the world was gentle for once. That night, as we walked back, we saw Paul near the shed. He was holding a bottle. He said something we couldn't understand. And then laughed loudly. Clara grabbed my hand. We walked inside quickly and closed the door. I could hear his footsteps outside for a while, and then it was quiet. Clara sat in the dark, her face pale. I said softly, "It's okay, he's gone." But I wasn't sure. The next morning, Mr. Benson told everyone there was a storm coming. "Finish what you can today," he said. We worked until the sky turned gray. The wind blew hard and dust filled the air. Clara coughed and covered her face with a scarf. I could barely see her through the wind. By evening, the storm hit. The shed shook and rain poured through the roof. We moved to the corner where it was dry. Clara sat close to me, holding her blanket tight. "Do you think the rain will stop soon?" she asked. I smiled. "It always stops." But that night, something felt wrong. Between the sound of thunder and rain, I heard footsteps outside. Slow, careful footsteps. Clara looked at me, her eyes wide. "Who's that?" she whispered. I stood up and listened. Someone was moving near the door. Then a voice said, "Open up, I need to talk." It was Paul. My heart started beating fast. I whispered, "Don't say anything." He pushed the door, but it was locked. "I know you're in there," he said, his voice louder now. "Don't make me angry." Clara held my hand tight. I didn't move. I prayed he would go away. After a few minutes, I heard him curse and walk off into the rain. We sat there all night, afraid to sleep. The next morning, when the sun came out, we went to work as usual. But Clara was quiet. She didn't smile, didn't talk. I asked her if she was okay. She said softly, "I just want to leave this place. Rebecca, I don't feel safe." I wanted to tell her that everything would be fine, but I couldn't lie. Maybe she was right. That evening, Mrs. Benson came to us. She said, "Girls, when the harvest ends next week, we won't need extra help anymore." "I'm sorry." Clara's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "What will we do now?" I didn't know what to say. We had nowhere to go, no money saved, and winter was coming. But I put my arm around her and said, "We'll find another job. We always do." That night, as she slept beside me, I lay awake listening to the sound of the wind outside. I thought about everything, the work, the fear, the dream. I wanted to believe we could still find our small house, our small peace, but deep down I felt something dark and heavy, something I couldn't name. It was the feeling that maybe our dream was too far away. Maybe the world was too hard for girls like us. Still, I whispered to her in the dark, "We just want a better life, Clara. That's all," and she murmured, half asleep, "We'll find it one day." I wished I could believe her. Before I continue my story, please subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now, let's continue. The next few days after the storm were cold and wet. The ground was heavy with mud, and our shoes were always soaked. Clara coughed often. I told her to rest, but she refused. "We need to finish the harvest," she said. "We can't lose our pay." We worked side by side in the field, our hands red and our clothes sticking to our skin. The other workers didn't talk much. Everyone looked tired. Mr. Benson walked around with a serious face, shouting directions. Paul worked near the barn carrying sacks of grain, but every time I looked up, I saw his eyes on us. That made me uneasy. One afternoon, when we were alone in the field, Clara stopped working and said, "Rebecca, I can't stay here anymore. I want to leave before something bad happens." I looked at her and saw tears in her eyes. I wanted to say no, to tell her to wait until we got paid, but I saw fear written all over her face. I said, "Okay, we'll leave after this week. When we get our money, we'll go." She nodded slowly. "Promise," she whispered. "I promise." That evening, we went to the river again. The water was calm, the air cool. We sat together, not saying much. The world felt heavy, like it was pressing down on us. Clara picked a small white flower from the grass and held it in her hand. "Maybe when we leave," she said softly, "we'll find a place where no one shouts at us. No one scares us, a place where we can laugh. I smiled, though I could feel tears in my throat. We'll find it. The next morning, Mr. Benson gave everyone their pay early because the harvest was done. I was happy but also scared. We didn't have a plan, only a small bag and a few dollars each. Still, it felt like a new start. Clara was quiet as we packed our things. "Where will we go?" she asked. "I heard there's work at the mill near." "The town of Graywood," I said. "It's not far." She smiled a little. "Then let's go tomorrow morning." That night, we ate our last dinner near the fire outside the shed. Mrs. Benson came by to give us a loaf of bread and a jar of jam. "You girls take care of yourselves," she said kindly. "The road is long and cold." "Thank you, ma'am," Clara said softly. We sat up late talking about the future. For the first time in weeks, Clara looked peaceful. She talked about building a small home, about planting her favorite flowers, about having a small dog that would guard the door. I listened quietly, smiling, because when she talked about the future, it felt like we were all ready. There, before going to sleep, I whispered, "Tomorrow, everything will change." But I didn't know how right I was. In the middle of the night, I woke up to the sound of the door creaking. My heart stopped. I turned my head and saw a shadow moving inside the shed. I froze. Clara was still asleep beside me. The shape moved closer. I could smell alcohol. It was Paul. He stumbled toward Clara, his voice low and ugly. "You think you're too good to talk to me," he whispered. "You think I don't see you looking away." I sat up fast. "Leave us alone." I shouted. He turned toward me, his eyes wild. "Stay out of this," he said. He grabbed Clara's arm. She woke up terrified, trying to pull away. I picked up the metal lamp beside me and threw it at him. It hit his shoulder. He shouted in pain and let go of her. "Run!" I yelled. We ran out into the rain. The ground was slippery and we could barely see. We ran toward the barn, because it was closer than the road. Behind us, I could hear Paul shouting and running after us. My heart pounded so loud I couldn't think. We hid behind some hay near the back wall of the barn. My hands were shaking. Clara was crying silently beside me. We could hear footsteps outside, slow and searching. Paul's voice came through the rain. "You can't hide from me. I'll find you." I held Clara's hand and whispered, "Don't move. Don't make a sound." Minutes passed like hours. Then there was silence. I thought maybe he had gone. Slowly, I stood up and peeked through a gap in the wall. I saw nothing but darkness and rain. "He's gone," I whispered, but I was wrong. As I turned, Paul stepped out from behind the hay stack. He grabbed my arm and pushed me hard. "You think you can run from me?" he shouted. Clara screamed and tried to pull him away. He hit her and she fell. Something inside me broke. I grabbed a wooden stick lying near the hay and swung it as hard as I could. It hit his head. He fell to the ground still. For a moment, everything was quiet except the sound of rain hitting the roof. I dropped the stick. My hands were shaking. Clara crawled over to him. "Rebecca," she whispered. "He's not moving." We both stared at him. I couldn't speak. My body felt cold all over. "We have to go," I said finally. "Now." We ran back to the shed, grabbed our small bags, and left through the back road. The sky was turning light, gray, and sad. The rain had stopped, but everything was wet. We didn't speak as we walked. We just kept moving. When the sun rose, Clara said softly, "Do you think he's dead?" I didn't answer. I didn't want to know. I just said we did what we had to do. We walked for hours. By afternoon, we reached the main road. My shoes were soaked and my body hurt everywhere. Clara's face looked pale. "Let's rest here for a while," she said. We sat under a big oak tree. She leaned against my shoulder and closed her eyes. I looked at her and thought about everything we had been through. The long days, the hunger, the dreams we shared. I wanted to protect her from everything, but I couldn't even protect her from the world. A car passed by on the road. A man looked out and shouted, "Hey, are you two from the Benson farm?" "There. Looking for you." My heart froze. Clara looked at me scared. What do we do now? I grabbed her hand. We keep walking, I said. We don't stop. By evening, we reached a small bridge. The sky turned red and the world was quiet. Clara's steps were slow now. I can't go much farther, she whispered. We'll stop soon, I said, but I was scared. I didn't know where we were going anymore. All I knew was that we couldn't go back. We found an old barn near the edge of the woods. It looked empty. We went inside. Clara laid down on the hay and closed her eyes. I'm so tired, Rebecca, she said softly. I know, I whispered. Rest now. I'll keep watch, she smiled faintly. We'll find that house one day, right? I felt tears in my eyes. Yes, Clara, we'll find it. But as I watched her fall asleep, I felt the weight of the night pressing down. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees. Somewhere far away, a dog barked. And I knew deep in my heart that our dream was slipping away, like a small light fading in the dark. When morning came, the air was cold and quiet. Sunlight slipped through the cracks in the old barn walls. I sat beside Clara, watching her sleep. Her face looked pale, almost white. I touched her forehead. It was warm, too warm. She opened her eyes slowly and smiled weakly. Good morning, she whispered. Good morning, I said softly. How are you feeling? She shook her head, just tired. My chest hurts a little. I looked around. The barn. There was nothing there except hay, an old blanket, and a broken bucket. We had no food, no water, no medicine. I wanted to cry, but I stayed quiet. We waited for a while before walking again. Clara's steps were slow. Sometimes she had to stop and catch her breath. The road ahead looked endless. There were no houses, no people, just wide fields in the wind. Around noon, we saw a small gas station far away. My heart lifted. Maybe we could buy food or water there. We had only a few dollars left, but it was something. When we reached the station, the man behind the counter looked at us carefully. You girls from around here? He asked. I said, no, sir. We're just passing through. He gave a short nod. You look tired. Yes, sir, I said. We just need something to eat and some water. He filled 2 bottles for us and gave us bread. I paid him and thanked him. As we turned to leave, he said quietly, there are men asking about 2 girls on foot. You best be careful. I froze. Did they say what they wanted? He shrugged. Didn't say much, just that they came from a farm down the road. Clara looked at me, her eyes wide. With fear, I whispered, it's okay. We'll keep going. We walked away fast. My hands trembled as I held the bottle. I couldn't stop thinking about Paul. About what we had done. If he was dead, maybe they would blame us. Maybe they already knew. As the sun started to set, we reached a small river. We sat by the bank and ate the bread slowly. Clara said softly, do you think they'll find us? I don't know, I said, but I won't let them take you. She looked at me sadly. You've always taken care of me, Rebecca. Ever since the farm in Southfield. I smiled faintly. And I always will. We stayed there until it got dark. The sky was full of stars, and the moon shone on the water. It was peaceful, but I couldn't relax. Every sound made me turn my head. I felt like the world was watching us. That night, I couldn't sleep. Clara was breathing fast beside me. I touched her hand. It was cold now. I whispered, Clara, are you okay? She didn't answer right away. Then she said softly, I'm just tired, Rebecca, I want to rest. Shai leaned her head on my shoulder. Remember what I said about the house? With flowers. Yes, promise me you'll still find it, even if. I can't, I shook my head. Don't say that, you'll be there too. She smiled faintly. Maybe, but if I'm not, promise me you'll keep dreaming. I couldn't speak. My throat felt tight. I just held her close. When morning came again, the sky was gray. I woke up to the sound of water. The river was moving fast after last night's rain. I turned to Clara. She was still. Too still. Her face was calm, her eyes closed, and her hand rested near mine. I touched her arm. It was cold. My heart stopped. Clara, I whispered. Clara, wake up. She didn't move. I called her name again and again, but she was gone. I don't remember how long. I sat there maybe hours, maybe all day. The world felt empty. I felt like part of me had gone with her. When the sun went down, I finally stood up. I couldn't leave her lying there alone. I found a quiet place near the riverbank under a big tree. I covered her with the blanket and the small white flowers she had once picked. By the water, I whispered, you have your garden now, Clara. You're free, I cried until I couldn't anymore. That night, I walked away from the river. My feet felt heavy, but I kept walking. I didn't know where to go. The stars were bright above me, but they didn't feel warm anymore. I just walked and walked, repeating the same words in my head. We just wanted a better life. That's all we wanted. A week later, I reached Graywood. The town was small but busy. I found work at a small diner washing dishes. I never told anyone my real name or where I came from. I just said my name was Mary. People there were kind. They didn't ask questions. At night, when the work was done, I sat outside behind the diner and looked at the stars. Sometimes I talked to Clara in my heart. I told her about the people I met, the food I cooked, the songs I heard on the radio. I told her I was trying to be happy. One day, Mrs. Hill, the diner owner, came to me and said, Mary, I have a small room behind the diner. It's old, but it's yours if you want it. I followed her behind the building. It was a small wooden room with a little window and a bed. My heart started to beat faster. It wasn't much. The paint was peeling and the air smelled of dust. But when I stood in that doorway, I saw something Clara had dreamed of. A little place of our own. That night I sat on the bed and whispered, we made it, Clara. Maybe not the way we planned, but we did. I kept working, saving small amounts of money. Sometimes I planted flowers in a box outside my window, white ones, like the flower Clara once held by the river. Every morning when I watered them, I felt her with me. Years passed and life stayed quiet. I never forgot her. Every time I saw a girl working hard, carrying her dreams. In her tired eyes, I thought of us, two girls with nothing but hope. Sometimes when I looked at the fields outside town, golden in the sunlight, I could almost see her there smiling and barefoot, her hair shining like wheat. She would look back at me and say, we just wanted a better life, Rebecca, and that's okay. And I would smile, whispering to the wind, yes, Clara, we